In the world of British gold, few coins sit at the crossroads of history quite like the 1820 gold sovereign. It carries the final portrait of King George III. It marks the last striking year of his 59-year reign. It belongs to the generation that rebuilt the nation after the Napoleonic Wars and set the blueprint for modern British coinage. This is the story of the King's last sovereign. A coin shaped in an era of conflict, reform and change. A coin that ended a chapter in the history of the United Kingdom. By 1820, George III was more than a king. He was a symbol of a nation that had endured wars, revolutions and economic hardship. His reign began in 1760, long before the Industrial Revolution reshaped daily life. Britain saw the loss of the American colonies, the rise of Napoleon and the transformation of the Royal Mint. But his final years were quiet and withdrawn. Ill health and blindness had placed power in the hands of his son, the Prince Regent. When the sovereign of 1820 was struck, George III was still alive, though he lived far from public view. The coin you are about to explore is not just the currency of a nation. It is the closing line of a long royal story. To understand the 1820 piece, you need to step back to 1816. Britain had just emerged from the Napoleonic Wars, deeply in debt and in need of a stable monetary system. Parliament pushed through the Great Recoinage, which introduced a new gold standard and restructured the entire currency. The sovereign of the past disappeared. In its place came a new coin, the modern gold sovereign. It carried no shield, no traditional royal arms. Instead, it displayed a bold new design of St. George defeating the dragon. It was a statement of victory, stability, and national confidence. The 1820 sovereign was part of this new era. It belonged to the reborn British currency system. Today it stands as one of the earliest sovereigns of the modern age. Turn the coin to the obverse and you face the final official portrait of King George III. The bust is by the Italian engraver Benedetto Pistrucci, one of the Royal Mint's most skilled artists. You see the King Laureate, facing right. His hair is tied at the back. The portrait is aging, strong and unmistakably human. It is not the youthful king of the American Revolution. It is the elderly monarch whose reign stretched across generations. The inscription reads, Georges 3dg Britannia Rex FD. George III, by the grace of God, King of the Britons, Defender of the Faith. Around the rim sits a border of small raised denticles. They help identify the coin and protect the design from wear. This obverse is the last portrait ever placed on a circulating British coin during his lifetime. After 1820, every new coinage would carry a different face. Flip the coin to the reverse and you meet one of the most influential designs in British numismatic history. St. George on horseback, sword raised, striking down the dragon below. It was also created by Benedetto Pistrucci, and this image became the signature of the sovereign for centuries. The date 1820 sits at the bottom. There is no legend on this side. The art speaks for itself. The scene is full of motion. You can see the flowing cloak of the rider. You can see the dragon coiled in attack. The classical style reflects the taste of early 19th century Britain, inspired by Greece, Rome and heroic imagery. This reverse was a breakthrough. It broke away from the shields and crowns of earlier gold coinage. Instead, it told a story. It gave the sovereign a personality and a purpose. The 1820 piece carries the second year of this reverse design in its modern form. The technical details of the coin were set by the 1816 Coinage Act. They shaped the sovereign for generations. Weight, 7.988 grams. Gold purity, 22 carats, 91.67% gold. Diameter, 22.05 millimeters. Mint, the Royal Mint, London. Edge, milled. Even today, modern sovereigns still follow these specifications. The 1820 piece is the ancestor of nearly every sovereign struck since. The 1820 sovereign has two major obverse types, the large head and the small head. These varieties were not created by design but by adjustments made by the Royal Mint. The total mintage of sovereigns that year was around 2.1 million pieces, but the survival rate is far lower. Gold coins are often melted, remade or stored in banks. Many circulated heavily in the decades that followed. Today, the coin is collectible, but the finest quality pieces are genuinely scarce. High-grade examples with sharp detail can command strong prices, especially those with a well-centered strike and clean surfaces. The Royal Mint of the early 19th century was in the middle of a transformation. New steam-powered presses introduced by Matthew Boulton and James Watt had replaced older hand machines. These presses produced coins with far greater precision. The consistent strike and detailed artwork of the 1820 sovereign are the direct result of this technology. Yet the mint still struggled with die wear, engraving changes, and inconsistent quality. This is why collectors notice small differences among coins of the same year. Every piece carries small traces of its creation process. The 1820 sovereign was one of the last coins produced under the watch of the aging king. Soon a new reign and a new portrait will take over. On January 29, 1820, King George III passed away at Windsor Castle. His final years were silent and private. His death marked the end of the longest British reign up to that time. The sovereign that carries his portrait therefore became the last gold coin issued in his name. Within months, new dies were prepared for the reign of George IV. This gives the 1820 sovereign a special place in history. It belongs to two worlds, the end of one monarchy and the start of another. The sovereigns of this era were not collectors' pieces. They were real currency, used in trade, banking, and daily life. A sovereign represents a full pound sterling in gold. It could pay wages, settle debts, or be shipped abroad as a trusted international currency. Many pieces traveled far beyond Britain. Some crossed oceans to India and Australia. Others sat in European banks as part of gold reserves. Each sovereign carried value, reliability, and prestige. The 1820 sovereign worked just like this. It moved money across the world while carrying the final portrait of a king. Today the coin stands as an important milestone. It is the last sovereign of George III. It is one of the earliest sovereigns made under the new gold standard. It carries one of the most famous designs in British coinage. Collectors value it not only for gold, rarity, or age, but for what it represents. It is the close of the Georgian era and the doorway to the modern monarchies of Britain. Every time you hold an 1820 sovereign, you feel a piece of that history. It has lived through revolutions, wars, empires, financial cycles and collectors' hands. Yet the portrait and the St. George design remain clear, confident and symbolic. The 1820 George III gold sovereign is more than a coin. It is a witness to change. It stood at the end of a long royal story and at the beginning of a new currency system. Its artwork reflects the ambition of a rising nation. Its gold carries the memory of an era that shaped the modern world. 200 years later, it continues to shine with the same quiet strength. A small circle of gold that holds the final chapter of a king's reign. You're watching Coin Legacy, where history lives through the coins that shaped civilizations.